You ever open your phone and see their name flash across your screen? It hits you like lightning. Your heart stops. Then it starts racing so fast you can barely breathe. Your hands start shaking. You read the message once, twice, 3 times. You are trying to make sense of it. You are trying to understand why now. Why after all these weeks of silence? Why after you finally started sleeping through the night again? Why after you finally stopped checking your phone every 5 minutes? Why after you finally got used to the quiet? The message is right there. 3 words, maybe 5. Hey, or long time, or just checking in. And those words rip your chest wide open. I need you to hear me right now. You are not crazy. You are not dramatic. You are not overreacting. What you are feeling right now as you stare at that screen, that confusion, that storm of emotions flooding back, it is completely, absolutely human. Because let me tell you something. You spent weeks building a wall, brick by brick. You told yourself you were okay. You told yourself you did not need answers. You told yourself that silence was the closure you would never get. You rebuilt yourself piece by piece. You got stronger. You started breathing again. You started living again. And then they texted, and just like that, the foundation cracks. Everything you thought you had processed rushes back. Every question you buried comes back to the surface. Every night you spent wondering why it ended this way. Every conversation you replayed in your head. Every moment you questioned if you were enough. It all floods back in a single second. Sound familiar? Good. Keep watching, because what I am about to tell you is going to change the way you see this person forever. It is going to give you the answer you have been chasing for weeks, maybe months. And more importantly, it is going to give you back the power you thought you lost. Here is the truth. This happens to almost everyone who has ever been with an avoidant person. They leave. They go silent. They disappear completely. And then one day out of nowhere, they reach back out and it leaves you completely shattered all over again. You have been waiting for an explanation. You have been waiting for them to tell you why they left. You have been waiting for closure. And now that text arrives and it does not give you anything. No explanation, no sorry. Just that simple casual message that means nothing and everything at the same time. So why did they do it? Why now? What does this mean? That is the question, right? What does it mean when someone who is capable of walking away without a single word suddenly decides to send you a text? Does it mean they miss you? Does it mean they want you back? Does it mean they realize they made a mistake? Here's what I'm going to do for you in this video. I'm going to pull back the curtain completely. I am going to show you exactly what is happening inside the mind of an avoidant person when they go silent. I'm going to explain why they disappear in the first place, and I'm going to tell you exactly why they break that silence weeks or months later. But more than that, I'm going to give you something that no one else can. I'm going to tell you what to do when that text arrives, how to respond, how to protect yourself, how to choose yourself no matter what they do next. Because you deserve to understand, you deserve answers, and you deserve to finally stop carrying this weight alone. So if you have ever been left with no explanation, if you have ever been left wondering why, if you have ever stared at your phone hoping for clarity and receiving silence instead, this video is for you. Stay with me until the end, because what I am about to share with you is going to rewire the way you think about this entire situation. You are going to walk away from this video knowing exactly why they did what they did. And more importantly, you are going to know exactly what to do next. Do not skip ahead. Every second of this video is designed to get you closer to peace. So breathe, stay present, and let me show you the truth you have been looking for. Here is what you need to understand first. Before we get into the why, you need to understand the what. You need to understand what is happening to you in this exact moment. Because the emotions you are feeling right now are not random. They are not weakness. They are the direct result of something called intermittent reinforcement. Your brain has been trained by this person. You never knew when they would reach out. You never knew when they would pull away. You never knew when you would get attention and when you would get silence. That unpredictability created a cycle in your brain that feels like an addiction. And now, just when you thought you broke free, the addiction fires right back up. Hold on, because this is just the beginning, and what comes next will blow your mind. The feeling never really left you, did it? Even when you convinced yourself that you had moved on. Even when you told your friends you were fine. Even when you stopped crying every single night. There was a part of you that stayed frozen in that moment. The moment they chose silence over you. The moment they walked away without turning back. That part of you never fully healed. It just went quiet. And the moment you saw their name on your screen, it woke back up. Loud, sharp, overwhelming. It brought everything you buried right back to the surface. The pain you worked so hard to suppress. The questions you tried so hard to ignore. The wound you thought had closed just tore wide open again. And now you are sitting there wondering what is wrong with you. Why you cannot just act normal. Why you cannot just brush it off like they apparently have. Why every time you try to type a reply, your hands freeze and your chest tightens, and your mind goes completely blank. Let me tell you something right now. There is nothing wrong with you. Not one thing. What you are feeling is not weakness. It is not oversensitivity. It is not drama. It is the most natural, most human response to a deeply unnatural situation. And if no one has ever told you that before, let me be the first. When you love someone and they disappear without explanation, your brain does not just move on. It gets stuck. It replays every moment. It searches for answers that will never come. It builds narratives to fill the silence. And over time, those narratives become your reality. You start believing things about yourself that are not even true. You start thinking maybe you were the problem. Maybe you were too much. Maybe you asked for too much. Maybe loving you was harder than they could handle. Here is the truth your brain has been hiding from you. Their silence was never about you. It was never a reflection of your worth. It was always about them and their inability to face their own emotions. But your brain does not know that. Your brain only has the silence to work with. And silence is one of the most dangerous things you can give to a human being. Silence creates ambiguity. Ambiguity creates obsession. Obsession creates self-doubt. And self-doubt destroys you from the inside out. You have been running on fumes for weeks or maybe months now. You have been carrying a weight no one can see. You have been walking around with a hole in your chest pretending everything is okay. And the hardest part was not the pain. The hardest part was having no one to explain it to you. No one to tell you why. No one to give you the truth you needed to finally start healing. And then they text one message after all that silence and it breaks every wall you built. Why does this hit so hard? Let me explain something to you. There is a concept in psychology called emotional gap. When someone leaves without closure, your brain never finishes processing the relationship. It stays stuck in a loop. It keeps searching for resolution. It keeps trying to make sense of what happened, and it cannot move forward because the story never ended. That text is like someone finally opening a door you thought was locked forever. But instead of giving you answers, they just stand there, silent, looking at you, waiting for you to react. And your brain, desperate for closure, leaps at the opportunity. You start imagining what it means. You start building hope. You start telling yourself, maybe this is the moment things change. Maybe this is the moment they finally explain. Maybe this is the moment they come back for real. But here's what your brain is not telling you. That hope is dangerous. That hope is what keeps you trapped. Because the truth is, one text does not erase weeks of silence. One casual message does not rewrite the story of what happened between you. You are not overreacting. You are responding exactly the way a human being should respond to emotional trauma that was never resolved. You are responding the way someone responds when they have been carrying unfinished business with no closure. The problem is not you. The problem is the situation, and the situation was never in your control. What you need to understand is this. Your emotions are valid. Your confusion is valid. Your anger is valid. Your hope is valid. Every single feeling you have right now is valid and real and completely justified. You did not ask for this. You did not choose to be left with nothing. You did not deserve to be left wondering why you were not enough, and the fact that their text shook you so deeply does not mean you are broken. It means you loved honestly. It means you gave everything you had. It means you are someone who feels deeply and connects fully and does not hold back. Those are not weaknesses. Those are superpowers. But here is what you need to hear right now. That text does not give them power over you. You get to decide what it means. You get to decide how to respond. You get to decide if their message deserves your attention or your silence. More importantly, you get to decide that you are done waiting for answers that may never come. You get to decide that your peace matters more than their explanation. You get to decide that you are ready to walk away from this chapter and start writing a new one because you are. You really are. And everything I just said is only the beginning. What comes next will explain exactly why they did what they did. And when you understand that, something powerful will shift inside you. The confusion will clear. The anger will soften. And you will finally see the full picture. Keep watching because this is the part that changes everything. That question has been burning inside you since the moment their name appeared on your screen. Why did they leave? Why did they stay silent? Why did they come back? And most importantly, what does it say about you? Here is the answer that no one has given you yet. It says nothing about you. Not a single thing. To understand why they did what they did, you have to understand something that most people never learn. You have to understand what is actually happening inside the mind of an avoidant person. Not the behavior you saw, not the silence that broke you, but the engine behind everything. The reason they pulled away, the reason they could not stay, the reason they came back. Because here is what you need to know. Avoidant people are not cold. They are not heartless. They are not incapable of love. They are something far more complicated and far more painful. They are people whose brains have been wired by years, sometimes decades, of protecting themselves from emotional danger. And emotional danger to them looks exactly like what you were offering them. Connection, closeness, real intimacy. Let me break this down in a way that will completely reframe how you see this person. When you first met them, everything felt different. They were warm. They were present. They gave you attention and time and energy. You felt like you finally found someone who could match your heart, and you started to fall. But then something shifted. As the relationship got deeper, as the connection got stronger, as you started to need them more and trust them more, something inside them started to panic, and it was not about you. It was never about you. Their brain has a built-in alarm system, and that alarm goes off every time emotional intimacy reaches a certain level. It is like a smoke detector that goes off every time you turn on the stove, not because fire is coming, but because someone told it long ago that fire is always coming. See, avoidant attachment does not develop in a vacuum. It develops as a survival mechanism, usually starting in childhood, when a person's emotional needs were not met, when vulnerability was punished instead of rewarded, when expressing feelings led to rejection or abandonment. Their brain learned a very specific lesson at a very young age. Connection is dangerous. Closeness leads to pain, and the only way to survive is to keep everyone at a safe distance. That lesson gets stored deep in their nervous system, and it runs automatically, like breathing, like blinking. They do not choose to pull away. Their brain forces them to pull away because to their brain staying close feels like standing on the edge of a cliff. So, when you came into their life and started building something real, something deep, something meaningful, their brain saw a threat, not you as a person, but the emotional closeness you were building. That closeness triggered every alarm they have ever had, and their only response was to run. This is why they could not explain themselves. This is why they could not give you closure, because they do not fully understand it themselves. Their brain is doing something they have no control over, and trying to explain it would require them to be vulnerable, and vulnerability is the exact thing their brain is screaming at them to avoid. So, they chose silence. They chose to disappear, not because they do not care about you, but because they care so much that it terrified them. The deeper they fell for you, the louder the alarm in their head became. And the only solution their brain could find was to run. This is what avoidance really is. It is not a lack of feeling. It is an overwhelming amount of feeling that has nowhere to go. It is an emotional overload that their defense system cannot process. It is love so powerful that their mind mistakes it for danger. And here's the part that will hit you hardest. They did not leave because you were too much. They left because they believed they were not enough. Deep down inside of them, there is a voice that has been whispering for years. A voice that says they do not deserve real love. A voice that says they will eventually disappoint anyone who gets too close. A voice that says it is only a matter of time before they ruin everything. So, they run first before they can be left, before they can fail, before they have to face the truth that they are worthy of love, which is the scariest thing they have ever had to believe. You see, the problem was never you. The problem was their relationship with themselves. The problem was the wound they never healed. The problem was every person who made them feel like closeness was something to fear instead of something to embrace. And here's why this matters so much for you. Understanding this does not excuse what they did. It does not make the pain disappear. It does not give you the closure you deserved. But it does something far more powerful. It removes the blame from yourself. It shifts the focus from what you did wrong to what they could not handle. And it gives you permission to stop asking questions that have no good answers. They left because they were afraid. Not of you, not of the relationship, but of the version of themselves they would have to become if they let you all the way in. And that fear was stronger than their love for you. That fear won. But that is their story, not yours. Your story is about someone who stayed open when it would have been easier to close off. Your story is about someone who loved with courage while they loved with fear. Your story is about someone who deserved a partner who could stay and fight and choose them fully, and you did not get that. You got someone who ran. You got silence. You got confusion, and that is not your fault. That is not your failing. That is just the reality of what happens when two people with different attachment styles try to build something together. Keep watching because what comes next will explain why they broke that silence and texted you after all those weeks. And once you understand that, you will never see this situation the same way again. There is a moment in that silence where something strange happens. You stop fighting it, you stop hoping, you stop waiting, and in that moment, something inside you goes quiet. Not healed, not okay, just quiet. For a little while, that quiet feels like peace. It feels like you finally made it through. It feels like the storm passed and you survived. And for a few days, maybe a few weeks, you actually believe you are moving on. You go to work. You laugh with friends. You eat. You sleep. You function. And you think to yourself, maybe I am going to be fine after all. But that is not peace. That is something else entirely. That is your nervous system going into survival mode. That is your brain protecting you from the pain by shutting it out. That is not healing. That is numbness. And there is a massive difference between the two, even though they feel the same at first. Healing is active. Healing is you feeling the pain, processing it, and slowly letting it go. Healing means you sit with the hurt. You face it. You understand it, and you make peace with it. Healing takes time, energy, and courage. Healing requires you to be fully present with your pain, not running from it. Numbness is passive. Numbness is your brain deciding that feeling everything is too dangerous, so it just turns it off. Numbness does not process the pain. It just stores it away. Numbness does not give you peace. It gives you a temporary ceasefire, and eventually that ceasefire expires. Here is what you need to understand. The human brain is not designed for isolation. It is not designed for emotional disconnection. It is not designed to process rejection alone. Your brain needs connection the way your body needs air. It is that fundamental. And when you are cut off from the people you love, when you are left alone with unanswered questions, when you are forced to carry pain with no one to help you carry it, your brain starts doing something very specific. It starts shutting down non-essential functions. Think about it. When you were going through that silence, did you lose interest in things you used to love? Did food start tasting like nothing? Did music lose its power? Did you stop making plans because nothing felt exciting anymore? Did you feel like you were watching your own life from the outside? Like you were floating through it instead of living it? That is your brain conserving energy. That is your brain saying, we do not have enough resources to feel everything right now, so we are going to turn off the unnecessary ones. Joy is not essential for survival. Passion is not essential for survival. Curiosity is not essential for survival, so they go dark. They go quiet. They get stored away until the storm passes. But the storm never really passes when you never get answers. The storm just gets buried, and buried storms have a way of building pressure over time. You thought you were getting better. You thought you were moving forward, but what you were actually doing was numbing yourself, and that numbness is not freedom. That numbness is a cage disguised as peace. This is exactly what the avoidant person is doing to themselves. While they were in silence, while they were hiding, while they were pretending they were fine without you, their brain was running the same survival program. Their brain was shutting down. Their brain was conserving energy. Their brain was numbing the pain they could not process. They looked fine on the outside. They looked like they moved on easily. They looked like they did not care. But looks are deceiving, because underneath that calm surface, their nervous system was struggling. Their emotional capacity was being drained. And the longer they stayed in that isolation, the more pressure built up inside them. And this is where the text comes from. This is where the sudden message after weeks of silence is born. They were not fine. They were never fine. They were surviving, the same way you were surviving. And the human body can only survive for so long before it demands something it cannot provide for itself. Connection, presence, validation, someone to tell them they are not alone. Even people who run from connection need connection. Even people who fear closeness crave closeness. Even people who build walls around their hearts feel the weight of those walls pressing down on them every single day. That silence you both lived in was never comfortable. It only felt that way because pain was the only alternative and pain was too heavy to carry. So you both learned to set the pain down. You both learned to stop looking at it. You both learned to pretend it did not exist, but it exists. It is still there. And eventually the avoidant person's mind reached a breaking point. The pressure got too high. The loneliness got too loud. And they did the only thing they could think to do. They broke the silence. Not because they solved their problem. Not because they healed. Not because they suddenly became capable of staying. But because the human need for connection overpowered their fear of intimacy. Just for a moment. Just long enough to send a text. And when they sent it, they probably felt a wave of relief wash over them. For a few seconds, the pressure dropped, the loneliness quieted, and they felt connected to you again, even if only through a single message. That relief is temporary. The pressure will build again. And unless something changes inside them, they will either retreat back into silence or they will send another message, because this is a cycle, a pattern, a loop they cannot break on their own. This is why understanding this matters so much, because when you see the text, when you feel that shock and that confusion and that hope, you need to remember what is really happening underneath. You need to remember that they are not texting you because they changed. They are texting you because they broke. They reached out not because they solved their fear of intimacy, but because their fear of loneliness became louder. That is not a reason to run back into their arms. That is a reason to protect your own heart even more carefully, because you now understand that this pattern will repeat again and again unless something inside them fundamentally shifts. Keep watching, because what I'm about to share with you goes even deeper into the psychology of why they came back. And it will explain something you might not have considered yet. Something that most people miss completely. Something that will give you complete clarity on what this text really means.